This is a semiconductor chip. It's inside your phone, your car, your refrigerator. Modern civilization runs on these chips, and over 90% of the world's most advanced chips are made on this island. Taiwan. Population, 23 million, 180 kilometers from China, which claims Taiwan as its territory and has the world's largest military. If China invades Taiwan tomorrow, the global economy doesn't slow down, it stops. Your phone, your car, your country's military, all depend on one island. Let me show you how this happened. Taiwan produces over 60% of the world's semiconductors and over 90% of the most advanced chips. One company, TSMC, produces more cutting-edge chips than the rest of the world combined. This means Apple can't make iPhones without Taiwan. NVIDIA can't make AI chips without Taiwan. The US military can't build weapon systems without Taiwan. If Taiwan's chip production stopped tomorrow, global GDP would drop by trillions. Car factories would shut down. Electronics production would halt. It would be the worst supply chain crisis in history. So how did the entire world become dependent on one island? The map story. In 1987, a Taiwanese engineer named Morris Chang founded TSMC with a revolutionary idea. What if one company only manufactured chips designed by others? Before this, chip companies designed and made their own chips, which required billions in investment for both. Chang's foundry model changed everything. Companies like NVIDIA and AMD could focus on designing chips while TSMC perfected manufacturing. TSMC invested billions in R&D. By the 2000s, they were ahead of Intel. By the 2010s, they were ahead of everyone. Today, TSMC's factories produce chips nobody else can match. They're not just market leaders, they're alone at the top. Why Taiwan specifically? 3 key factors. First, the Taiwanese government made semiconductors a national priority in the 1970s. Subsidies, tax breaks, infrastructure support. Second, Taiwan invested heavily in engineering education and sat in the middle of Asia's electronics supply chain, reducing costs. Third, and critically, water. Chip manufacturing requires millions of liters of ultra-pure water daily. Taiwan has abundant water resources and built the purification infrastructure. By the 2000s, Taiwan had built an entire ecosystem, not just factories, but suppliers, engineers, and institutional knowledge that took 30 years to develop. You can't just copy one factory. You have to recreate the entire system. Here's where it gets scary. Building a cutting-edge chip factory costs $20 billion. And chip technology advances so fast that factories become outdated in 5 to 7 years. Only 3 companies can compete. TSMC, Samsung, Intel. But TSMC manufactures for everyone. Apple, NVIDIA, AMD, Qualcomm. This massive volume creates economies of scale. The more chips they make, the cheaper per unit, which attracts more customers, which funds more R&D. It's a flywheel effect. Look at the technology race measured in nanometers. How small the transistors are. 2020. TSMC reached 5 nanometers 2022. TSMC reached 3 nanometers 2025. TSMC targeting 2 nanometers. Intel and Samsung are consistently 1 to 2 generations behind. For AI processors, smartphone chips, and advanced computing only, TSMC can manufacture them at scale. So what happens if Taiwan's chip production suddenly stops? This could happen through Chinese invasion, blockade, earthquake, or pandemic. Here's the timeline. Weeks 1 to 4. Tech companies burn through chip inventories. Stock markets panic. Apple can't produce new iPhones. Car manufacturers shut assembly lines. Months 2 to 6. Global GDP contracts 5 to 10%. Electronics disappear from stores. Medical device shortages. Military systems face component shortages. Months 6 to 12. $1 to $2 trillion economic loss. Entire industries restructure, black markets for chips emerge. And unlike COVID, there's no vaccine. You can't quickly build chip manufacturing capacity. Now the geopolitical nightmare. China claims Taiwan as its territory and has stated reunification is inevitable. Chinese military exercises around Taiwan have dramatically increased. If China invades, TSMC's factories could be destroyed. Even if intact, production halts China could control global chip supply. The US faces catastrophic shortages. Some call this the Silicon Shield. Taiwan's chip dominance makes invasion less likely because China would also suffer. But others argue China might invade precisely to control chip production and leverage it against the West. China has invested over $150 billion trying to build domestic chip manufacturing. But they're stuck at older technology. They can't produce cutting-edge chips. Why? The US and Netherlands ban selling advanced chip-making equipment to China, and semiconductor manufacturing requires decades of institutional knowledge you can't steal or buy. China can make chips for basic electronics. They can't make chips for AI, advanced computing, or military systems. For those, they depend on Taiwan, a democracy aligned with the US. Everyone realizes this dependency is dangerous. The US CHIPS Act allocated $52 billion for domestic production. The EU allocated 43 billion euros. TSMC is building factories in Arizona. But here's the reality. TSMC's Arizona factory won't start production until 2024 to 2025, will cost $40 billion, and will produce 5-nanometer chips already 2 generations behind TSMC Taiwan. Why can't we just build chip capacity quickly? Equipment monopoly. The machines that make advanced chips are made by one Dutch company. Their machines cost $150 million each and take years to build. Expertise. TSMC employs 70,000 plus people with decades of specialized experience. You can't train chip engineers in a few years. Economics. Making chips in Taiwan costs 30 to 40% less than in the US due to labor, electricity, and scale advantages. These efforts won't mature until 2027 to 2030 at the earliest, and by then, TSMC will have advanced further. So where does this leave us? A few possible outcomes. Status quo continues. Taiwan remains independent. TSMC dominates. Everyone stays nervous. Unstable but possible. Successful diversification. The US and allies build advanced chip capacity over the next decade. Taiwan remains important but not irreplaceable. This requires massive sustained investment. China invades or blockades Taiwan. Global economic catastrophe. Tech industry destroyed for years. Potential world war. Defense analysts increasingly view Taiwan as the most likely flashpoint for great power conflict, not because of Taiwan itself, but because of what Taiwan produces. Modern weapon systems require advanced chips. AI requires advanced chips. Whoever controls chip production controls the future. So here's why 90% of the world's most advanced chips come from one island. For 30 years, we optimize for efficiency instead of resilience. We let one company on one island become irreplaceable because it was cheaper and more convenient. We assumed geopolitical stability would last forever. Taiwan built an incredible industry through smart policy and engineering excellence. But the result is that modern civilization now depends on an island that China claims and could invade. Your phone works because of Taiwan. Your car runs because of Taiwan. Your military operates because of Taiwan. And if something happens to Taiwan invasion, blockade, disaster, the global economy stops. This isn't speculation. This is the world we live in. And every day without diversifying chip production is another day we're one crisis away from global catastrophe. The chip industry concentrated in Taiwan because geography, economics, and politics aligned perfectly. But that created the most dangerous single point of failure in the global economy. And we're only beginning to realize how vulnerable we really are.